Okay, so you have not seen The Little Mermaid live action yet, Bridget.
I've heard the music because it's on Spotify. I've heard it, but I haven't got to see it yet. So it's on my list, and I actually have it, so I can watch it.
Yeah, nice.
All right, I've seen it once. I mean, busy time for movies right now.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I this and Little Mermaid and Barbie are the first two movies in a long time that I saw twice at the cinema. So I'm like, oh yeah, I am starting to do that again. It's been a while since that's been a thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, in anticipation for today, I did revisit Barbie for the second time in theaters and held up pretty well. So should be pretty fresh for a nice little chat here. Yeah. So hey, let's just get this show rolling. The Thodcast conversations about animation. And I know we kind of promised Barbie previously in other episodes, and it's been too long since our last one, talking about Nimona on Netflix. And so now we're back, reconvened. I'm your host, Philip Elke, coming to you from northern Minnesota. I'm very happy to be joined once again by Laura Akal, returning from the Little Mermaid episode. Actually, both Little Mermaid episodes we did here, you were a guest on. So how's it going, Laura?
Hi, hello. It's going great. I love visiting this kind of nostalgic revival content. It's very fun for me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back on. And of course, we have Bridget, mainstay of the Thodcast. Thank you so much, Bridget, for joining us. And we we're excited about this. We're missing a couple folks, but we had to. The show must go on. So if we have additional thoughts on Barbie in the future, we may share them, as they come. So for today, let's get into some Barbie talk. I don't know. I kind of thought of you, Laura, with this film. Barbie has been represented in film in the past, and you're particularly a fan of The Little Mermaid and that particular franchise from Disney. But the voice that brought Ariel to life originally, Jodie Benson, isn't she like primarily the main voice of Barbie as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she started out with Mattel actually in like the 90s, and she voiced Barbie for a Barbie workout tape that they put out. I think there was a young Jennifer Love Hewitt in that tape as well. It's adorable. The animation is super cute. And then she was signed on to be part of, Pixar's official Barbie for Toy Story 2 and then Toy Story 3 and some shorts here and there. So, yeah.
Yeah, so fun to see that character show up, and great to know that there's some legacy behind the portrayal of the character, not just in the Toy Story films, but also in other materials. And then keeping that continuity is always super fun when they're able to do that.
So
Right.
Jodie Benson is going to be at MomoCon in
No
2024.
way.
Yeah, that's where I went in May, and I
Oh,
saw it
that's so
today on the
exciting.
MomoCon website, and I was like, ah! I like messaging my friend who I went with, and I was like, we have to go when hotels drop. Get it? I don't care how much it costs. We're going because I did Sailor Ariel this last time,
Oh
and so
my
I was
gosh,
like,
that's so cool. I love that.
yeah, I'm like, I want to meet her as Sailor Ariel, so
Yes.
she can be like, what are you?
Oh, that's so cute. I love that crossover as well. That's adorable. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I got it from like a Pinterest where all of them were Sailor Scouts, all the Disney princesses, and I was like, well, this is
Yes.
my new project, I suppose.
Yeah, Bridget, you've been
Amazing.
adventuring at some conventions, at least one I know, but preventing you a bit from making routine trips to the movie theater. So I don't know, anything to report from your most recent conventions? Is it MomoCon? Isn't that in Arizona or
Oh, no, no. Arizona was my friend's baby shower. Um,
yeah,
no, MomoCon's in Atlanta.
okay.
And then they also have Dragon Con in Atlanta, which I'm not going to that. It's really big. There's a lot of walking. I did a number on my feet at MomoCon. So, and then we have AugustaCon locally, and they actually just announced it's semi-annual, and it's kind of like encompassing, I guess, like nerd culture, I guess. But they just announced that they're going to start doing an Augusta Anime Fest. So we're getting they're bringing stuff here. It's a pretty big town, so I don't know why they don't.
Coming up, Jodie Benson at MomoCon. Barbie, though, Bridget, here are some thoughts on Barbie, considering this was one of the films you were able to go see. Yeah, what was the experience of finally getting to see this live action portrayal of the famous icon of American pop culture?
Well, I will say I am and have always been a Barbie girl. I had tons of Barbies. I actually had the workout Barbie that went along with the workout tape you were talking about.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, I'm like, I had the Barbies. And then when I got older, I have a daughter who's 10. And so of course, I bought her own Barbies. But my mom, of course, hoarded Barbies because apparently that's what mothers do per the movie. And so I passed it down to her. And of course, being a mom, that movie, I was like, oh, it's going to be so funny. It's going to be so cute. I'm also apparently going to get emotionally gut punched at the end. I had heard like whisperings, but man, I did not expect to like sob in this movie wearing all pink, ridiculously dressed up and I had my daughter with me and my husband went too. But she was like, why are you crying? And he was like, shh, your mother's having a moment. And I'm just like, crying. It was a great time. But I mean, overall, perfect casting. The movie was amazing. And I've actually heard that like Greta Gerwig has been asked about a sequel. And she was like, I don't think it needs one. She was like, everything I wanted to say, everything I wanted to accomplish, everything that I wanted to come across, like did. She's like, I don't think it needs anything else. And honestly, like, I agree. Like it was just so good. It's like been one of the movies that I've been really excited for. And I wasn't let down. I mean, not that other movies have let me down. It's just like, I had really high expectations and I feel like they delivered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cue the Team America theme. I know we're a bit removed of Fourth of July at this point, but America, F yeah. I'm talking about, of course,
Oh yes.
MVP of the
Yeah.
film,
Oh my
America
gosh, the
Ferrera.
queen.
But, Laura, what did you think?
Yeah, so it's one of the two films I've seen twice this year for the first time in a very long time. The other one, Little Mermaid. And it was a really cool like event experience. The first time I went, it was like a Barbie blowout party pre-screening or something. And so everybody, of course, was in pink. There was somebody there in the original black and white swimsuit with the hair done just perfectly. So everybody was and I've never experienced this in the theater before, but there were two moments in the film where the entire room started clapping like mid-film. And I was like, and people were like reacting like just like yes, like just very like verbally, non-verbally, just like there was such an energy going into this that like I kind of anticipated, but I didn't anticipate to that degree. It was just such a cool experience and also a film that I'm definitely going to be revisiting because it's just really hit a lot of things on my mind that were heavy on my heart. I'm somebody that deals with existential dread all the time, but also I love pink and Barbies. And I've been a Barbie girl for years and years. I love the Barbie cinematic universe going back to the animated films. I am a ballet dancer, so I loved the Nutcracker, Swan Lake, all of those. And so it's really cool to see her in live action and also in a way that reminded me but wasn't exactly like a copy of like another one of my favorite Disney movies, Enchanted, where it's kind of bringing in the reality to the fantasy and confronting these like human emotions for the first time. It's really like I can't stop thinking about it. It's so good.
Yeah, great comparison. I heard one commentator describe this summer 2023 as containing three films that are about existential crises that all take place in a commune in the desert. Those being Oppenheimer, Asteroid City, and Barbie. Kind
Amazing.
of accurate. Existential crises, of course, being the theme. I actually haven't seen Asteroid City. I'm assuming it deals with that. Seems like there's like a alien subplot, and I guess dealing with like the discovery of intelligent life outside of Earth probably involves a lot of existential crises. I would
Yeah. So did you do the Barbenheimer double feature?
But yeah, the Oppenheimer, of course, the creation of the atomic bomb. I saw them back to back days, I believe. Yeah, I saw Oppenheimer on a Sunday and then Barbie on a Monday the first time. I don't know, two movies in one day can kind of wear me out. Sometimes the second one I'll just be wanting to throw things at the screen by the time because I'm just too exhausted. But I'm sure it's a fun time. I would say see them either order. It probably doesn't really matter. Just depends on your mood. But Oppenheimer, I mean, that's a bit of a marathon, 3 hour long film, and this is kind of a nice. It's almost 2 hours, but it goes down easy. I've seen it twice now. I need to see Oppenheimer again though too. So I don't know. I see a lot of movies at the movie theater. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to get out, but it's cool to see that these films that were released on the same day are finding resonance among audiences in a summer when you've seen a lot of disappointments. So yeah, you guys, let's see, Bridget, you probably haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, right?
No, it's on our list, but we were gonna do a double feature, but then Scarlett was like, I want to see Barbie too. And so we were like, I don't think Oppenheimer's up her alley, and she's kind of young. So I was like, we'll just do Barbie then. So we're gonna make time to go see it at some point. Because my husband almost worked at Los Alamos. So
wow.
yeah, he got a job offer, but my family is in Georgia. So we were like, I was like, I would love not to live in New Mexico in the mountains if we could do that. So he took a different job and we stayed in Georgia.
Sorry,
But yeah, so he's like he like knows a lot about it that I don't.
Well, yeah, it's quite I mean, it's the land of enchantment, certainly, but desert as well. And Laura, you say you've seen Oppenheimer? Okay.
I haven't seen it. I'm still debating. I'm like, do I want to see it in theaters? Should I wait for streaming? I'm kind of figuring that out for myself, but I think eventually I will definitely be seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, the three films I referenced, I think, are varying levels of abstract in their depiction of reality, and Barbie being the most so. It's a very heightened kind of universe created by Greta Gerwig. Sorry, where Barbie, I don't know if her canon name for the doll is Barbara Ruth
Barbara Millicent Roberts
Handler.
is her
Handler.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Or
Barbie does have
yeah.
a full name.
Yeah, the character is like Barbara Millicent Roberts from Willows Creek, Wisconsin, or something like that. And then obviously Ruth Handler is Ruth Handler and named her after her daughter. But yeah.
I feel like the world associates Barbie with like Malibu, right?
Right. Yeah.
Malibu. We have
she's from
Malibu
Wisconsin.
Barbie.
Yeah, true.
And it kind of makes sense that when Barbie leaves her world, she ends up in Santa Monica, California, right on the beach.
Around Venice Beach. Like that takes me back. I love that area, even though it's like it can be kind of like vapid and whatever. I don't know. There's something about it that's very fun for me. So I like that that's where she was instantly transported to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she lives in a world. It's kind of this strange like communal society where they have like limited individuality because there are so many Barbies and there are multiple Kens and there are a few oddballs in the mix, but it's very strange. It's like they, I guess, all have individual distinct identities, but it must be kind of tough having the same name. Well, okay, so Margot Robbie is known as and you can tell it's a satire when she has a name like Stereotypical Barbie, because you would never see Mattel release a doll called Stereotypical Barbie.
I hope they do. I want that box to just say Stereotypical Barber.
I desperately want a weird Barbie. I'm like, you guys have to put out a weird Barbie now.
Yes.
I want everyone to do weird Barbie at parties. I want to see cosplays. I'm like, I don't want to see the skating one. I want weird Barbie.
Please. Yeah, more weird Barbie and just weird it up like all the way.
When you can really do anything. It's like, wear your clothes inside out, paint your face with marker. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, stereotypical Barbie is matched with a stereotypical Ken for the most part, although Ken gets a little bit groused if he feels like someone else is moving in on his territory. Of course, the stereotypical Ken is portrayed by Ryan Gosling, and his biggest rival is I don't know.
Just all the other Kens.
All the other Ken.
Yeah.
Primarily Simu Liu's Ken. You could ascribe a non-PC name like Asian Ken or something. I don't know, but that's kind of lazy. What should we call them? They're all beach.
Beach. Yeah.
They're all beach.
I can't think of what his specific, because a lot of them. Yeah. I guess that's the other thing that's unique about the Kens. They all just kind of, none of them
they
ever
just
like
exist.
Yeah, there's no Nobel Prize Ken. They're all just like Ken at the beach.
Obviously,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the endeavors to like increase diversity among the product line, involve branching out into different cultures and stuff. So I don't know how delicately they deal with that. I don't have a comprehensive knowledge of the history of the Barbie doll product line or Ken dolls. So I'm sure it's rife with controversy, understandably, and this movie addressed it a little bit. But I saw a little bit in my research. There's things going back to like Francie dolls, and there was a doll called, it was like it had a very archaic sounding name, Francie, but implying that she was a black woman in this form of doll, and so there have been a lot of uh innovations to the product, and I'm sure some of them have gone over well and some of them not so much. So I'm interested to hear y'all's thoughts. I didn't do a ton of research because I thought maybe you guys would know a little more about the history of Barbie. So my cop out answer for being kind of lazy.
Well, I will say, like, so I thought it was interesting that they were like, a lot of them were just Barbie, because Barbie had friends that had different names. So you had like Teresa, and then you had like her sisters, like Skipper, and you had Chelsea, and you had this one and that one. They all had, a lot of them had different names to kind of differentiate. Like Teresa, like she was like a white girl, possibly Hispanic with brown hair. So she was like brown haired Barbie, but she had a name. And it was the same thing. I don't remember exactly what the black girl Barbie's name was because I had a plethora. And then obviously you had ones that were like, specifically thinged Barbie. So I had like a vet Barbie and a doctor Barbie. And then like, which is funny, they had Midge, which was hilarious that they had it in there, because I'm like, I get like a kid might want to play with that, but it's like odd. Why would they want to play with that? But Ken, so the thing about Kens, and I had Ken dolls, I don't remember Kens ever having a different name at all. They were just always a variant of Ken. And I guess because they were like an accessory, they're not really like the main thing that you want, at least as a girl who played with Barbies. So I was like, I think the little boy had names, like, but I don't remember.
Or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think there was a Tommy.
Yeah.
Because he went with like Skipper and Chelsea because they were the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm like, I don't remember all their names, but yeah, they basically, she had friends who were like different races and they all had different names. So I thought it was interesting, which I think now that they do it more of like, all right, these are just all Barbies and all different kind of races, and it's a Barbie. And so I'm like, so they could have included it, but I think it was probably just easier to be like, yeah, they're all Barbie. The end. Yeah. It's Barbie.
I have to ask, that line, there was the specific line acknowledging Ken's kind of uselessness
Superfluous.
when they're in the car together. Was that like one of the biggest laughs in your guys' theater?
Oh yeah. People really
there were
got
so
a kick
many
out of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because I noticed the same thing with me. Like growing up, I had a ton of Barbies, a couple of her friends, a couple like branded ones. I think I had one male doll, and it actually wasn't Ken. It was like that period where Barbie and Ken like broke up, and she was dating like this Australian surfer named Blaine or something. So I had Blaine. But yeah, it was like the one other like modern like other guy. It's so random, but yeah.
I love it. Yeah, we got introduced to what's it? Sugar Daddy, or Sugar's Daddy.
Oh my
I
God,
don't know if that was
yeah,
made up for the
Sugar's
film.
Daddy, and then Earring Magic.
Earring Magic, my
Earring
favorite.
Magic
I'm so glad they included that. I was screaming. I was like, if he's not in this movie, I'm gonna lose it. But I'm so glad he was there. And he had a necklace, but he didn't have the infamous other necklace.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so many references and Easter eggs, and I mean, it's a movie. I mean, it sounds like most women who have seen it have loved it. I thought it was very well made, very well constructed, and well written. One of the most clever films, perhaps. In terms of like a brand collaboration I've ever seen, but also just of this year. What a surprise, and it's really skyrocketing in success, to show for it. Yeah, from Greta Gerwig. I mean, she's made very successful highly culturally relevant films in the past, Lady Bird and Little Women, and I'm sure it's just her career's taking flight. And of course, she actress in a lot of famous things as well. So this is very impressive to see. Noah Baumbach is a writer as well, and he's done a lot of famous things. So yeah, 2023's Barbie potentially moving to outgross Super Mario Brothers. I feel like this movie invites a lot of comparison to the Lego movie. It's kind of a wry comedy that's also a brand tie-in.
And Will Ferrell.
Yeah, Will
Yeah.
Ferrell
Yeah.
reprises his role as Lord Business, but it's certainly not derivative. I'm sure it's clearly something that Greta Gerwig came up with, from the ground up. She and Noah Baumbach. It's got a lot of personality and authorship behind it, a lot of originality. That's what you've got to do if you're going to release a major tentpole within a franchise. There has to be a hook, because people are getting sick of franchises, frankly. And there's all this shift now to like brand movies.
Right, Mattel Cinematic Universe incoming.
There's maybe more creative freedom in that now, or it's just maybe a trend. I don't know. Like we had the Air movie, the BlackBerry movie, Tetris, all these different things. So I don't know.
Some things don't need a movie.
True.
Some things don't need it.
I guess as long as you can develop a good story around it, it doesn't matter. But we're seeing so many kind of half-baked stories, developing around various brands lately that have just not performed at the box office. And it's kind of understandable that people would wait until these things show up, on streaming, and not, spend $50 plus on a movie outing with the entire family.
Yeah, I mean, it gets like we went to Elemental, which I was like, I'm going to see anyway because it looks good. And I mean, I took my kids, and that's $35, and we went during a matinee. We went during the day,
Wow.
And so I was like, I had heard it was cute already. Like we waited like a few days, and I was like, okay, I heard it's cute. It'll be enough to catch both of my kids' attention, so we'll go. But like, I didn't take him to like Barbie because he wouldn't have gotten it. But yeah, which I actually read that they have surpassed Super Mario as like the top debut for the year, and they've already earned like 800 million worldwide.
It's
so
insane.
Far.
Dang.
Yeah, and I think their budget was like 145 million. At least
that is insane. Said. Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I can't profess to love this movie because it's not really for me. But I like it a lot. Saw it twice, but I don't know. There are a few things a few lulls, I guess, throughout the film, and just the way it is such a weird kind of abstract story, that prevent me from fully engaging at certain points. But for you guys, did you ever feel disengaged by it, or was it real, just fully enrapturing the whole time, would you say?
Oh yeah, weirdly enough, this is, I think, also because the runtime was like fairly decent, like, and also the crowd that I went with was just so into it. Like I never found myself really like drifting off or anything. I was just so like into it and just kind of excited, and I didn't want to like look things up before, so I didn't listen to the soundtrack. I tried to limit the amount of trailers and clips I was watching. I didn't want to look up the Ken song until I saw it happen on screen, and I'm so glad I did, because that was a moment. That was one of the clap moments for our audience. But yeah, so I just felt really engaged in it and had a great time both times.
Yeah. Your daughter as well, Bridget?
Oh, so she actually loved it. I do think that there were some things that I don't know that she necessarily grasped, because I mean, she's 10. Because I kind of did the same thing. It came out the weekend of mine and my daughter's birthday, so it was like chaotic. So it was like her birthday, and then her birthday party, and then my birthday, and I tried to do something for myself because it's my birthday too. But but I was like, I'm not gonna have time to see Barbie, so I have to avoid everything and everybody. So I like tried my best. I did see some like the discourse with like Ben Shapiro, and I was like, I'm not even gonna read that. It's not it's pointless. And so like we finally got to go. And of course, like I expected it to be like, oh, haha, funny. It's gonna be like super nostalgic, especially if you know Barbie. And then there was like the emotional notes, but then it does a good job of like bringing you back. And I do think like I have seen that it hasn't quite connected with men the way it has with women. But I think it's because like most girls I know, they had the Barbies, they played Barbies with their mom. If they've had kids, if they had girls, they passed on Barbies to their kids and they played them with their kids. And like it was like honestly, I was like, it was like my life. Even though I'm a little anxious, but I'm not quite as like dreadful, I guess, as Gloria, like, or depressed as she is. But it's like I also have a preteen who wants nothing to do with me and she thinks I'm super lame. We're all lame. Sometimes we're cool, mostly lame. And so I was like, wow, I relate a lot with the mom, but also like what? Weird. So it was like, you know, the emotional note and then it like brings you back and it's like kind of like a little back and forth. But I like never felt bored. Everything like they hit their laughs every time. Like the beach off part.
Yes.
It was of course. And we went and we were actually in a smaller theater. We weren't in a really big theater, but everyone that was in there was like the same way. The energy was like you could like feel it. And like everyone was like laughing. Yeah, like energy. They were knuff. But they were like, everyone's laughing, everyone's reacting. And so it was like, man, like this movie, even with a smaller theater, was still like really good. And yeah, my daughter, she loved it. She thought it was really funny. She, of course, like was not affected by the sad part. But I was like, well, it's because you're not a mom. You'll understand one day, maybe, if you decide to be one. But I'm like, you don't understand. But even my husband loved it. Oh gosh, I just hit my table. He loved it though, because he was like, because I'm not some of the discourse was like, oh, it's like basically bashing men. It's a feminist movie. But he was like, honestly, he was like, if you think about it, it's like an everyone movie. Because at the end,
yeah,
they're like, at the end, we want Ken to be just more than like Barbie's boyfriend or Ken Beach. They're like, we want them to be more, and like everyone should be everything. Why be stuck in this like mold of what you should be? And so that's why we're like, well, we don't want everything to go back to normal because we want the Kens to be like, you know, a small circuit judge, like a circuit court judge, and stuff like that. Just like how they want the real world to be, where like women are also doing that. And so he was like, yeah, he was like, that was a really like insightful film that you would not expect based on like the subject. And he was like, yeah, he was like, so men who are like, oh, this is like bashing men. He was like, they obviously just didn't understand. Like maybe they should watch it again. And that's why I was like, yeah, you got to like tie them down, Get Out style, and like watch it. They have to watch it until they understand.
I mean, that's a great point. Yeah, because this film, like, you don't expect it going in to elicit such kind of emotions and also these conversations and discussions that are happening about vulnerability and aging and just kind of existing in the modern world and trying to find your identity and whatnot. For me, the scene on the bench, like that actually made me cry. Because, you know, just a little while ago, Barbie's kind of worrying about cellulite, but then she sees this woman who was probably like in her 90s, and she looks at her and she's like, you're so beautiful. And then she's like, I know it. And they have this like beautiful connection. And like, I mean, for me, as somebody who's a performer and is in the performing arts industry, like there's such a like this feeling, especially being a woman in the industry, like you have to be the youngest, prettiest person in the room. If not, you will be replaced by the next one. And it's just this moment of like recognition of beauty coming in so many different forms. And also, I mean, the fact that nobody ages in Barbie land, but how lucky we all would be to make it that far. Like there is such beauty in that. And so that like really got to me. That was a moment. And that was a scene that nearly got cut. And Greta had to really campaign for that, and I'm so glad she did, because that was a real standout moment for me, even as short as it was. But yeah,
it was very.
Go ahead.
It's poignant. I mean, the way Barbie, it's sort of a tutorial in. I mean, you know, yogic meditation. She's kind of sitting down, quieting herself, trying to listen to hear the girl who connected with her in the Barbie land, in Barbie, you know, what do we call it? Barbie land?
It's Barbie land.
Yeah.
That's what it says over it. It's Barbie land.
Right. And yeah, she has this connection to someone in the real world who she's now trying to find. And now in order to, you know, find this person, yeah, she just needs to reach within herself, kind of use the force, if you will. But yeah, she's and And then she has this really deep kind of intimate moment with just another person on the street. And it's just really touching. Bridget, though, you go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I thought it was like kind of what you're talking about, like, because I know some people who like didn't want to take their kids because there's like, some more adult jokes, and that's why I was like, I'm pretty sure they went over her head, but she laughed because we were laughing. But I thought that was important to show because, like, I mean, even like I struggle with that because I'm like, oh, like, I mean, yeah, I'm a mom, but like I perform, and I'm like, one day I'm gonna age out of being a princess, and I'm like, I'm just like
Same here.
dreading. I'm dreading the day that someone's gonna be like, you look too old to be Belle, and I'll be like, oh, okay, please no. But yeah, and there's like so much, and I mean, and maybe it's like a society thing, but I mean, guys also feel it. Like, you have to have washboard abs, and you have to have perfect skin, and you can't have wrinkles, and it doesn't matter how old you get. And it kind of harkens back to like Gloria's whole like spiel monologue that she has. It's like, you have to do this, but if you don't do it this way, then it's bad. But if you do it this way, then it's also bad. And actually, it's just all bad. Everything's bad.
Impossible.
Everyone expects you. Yeah, they expect you to be perfect, and it's just not like, and like it's just not like plausible. And that's something I've tried like as an adult, especially like as a role model for my own daughter, that I don't want to have like to be like freaked out by cellulite because it's a normal person thing.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, like don't say this, like don't talk about your body, like don't be like, oh, I'm so fat, like just don't pick about your body. But it's like, it's so hard though because it's like ingrained in us at this point. So I thought it was like a really like poignant moment to like show that it's like, yeah, you're beautiful, like regardless of your age, what you look like, if you have cellulite, even though Barbie did not want cellulite. So yeah, like I agree, and I'm like, I'm glad that they put that in there and that she was able to like keep that in there because it's like it's good for kids to see that too as they get older. Because I'm like, who knows? She might rewatch that movie in 10 years and be like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense now that I'm 20.
Yeah, it's great for kids to see that. I mean, it's interesting. The same week that this movie came out on TikTok, there was this huge trend of this like filter that makes you old, and all these like dermatologists were saying it's fairly accurate actually. And people, I would just see videos scrolling down of like, oh, I'm so scared, I look like a prune, and like people are just being so sad to their older self, or a projection of their older self. And stuff like this helps me kind of realize kind of how, again, like how lucky we all would be if we got to that point, and seeing the beauty in it, and how, I don't know, it's just an interesting perspective that doesn't get shown a lot, and I'm really glad that they did show it.
Yeah, I know this is a great detail to pick up on, but I guess one other note, the woman on the bench is portrayed by Anne Roth, who's a costume designer. Worked on things as recently as Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, as well as Noah Baumbach's most recent film, White Noise. So yeah, Noah Baumbach, he's I'm just trying to pull up his filmography. Didn't he do like the Marriage Story and Heroin Stories? Yeah, and then White Noise, which I haven't seen. I got to check that out. It's on Netflix, I think. So, yeah. Oh gosh, speaking of like the state of the movie, it's such a fascinating time in Hollywood right now. Of course, we got the strikes, and then streaming and AI and weird kind of situation at the box office. Are people just totally fatigued with franchises, or are they just waiting for a good story? Do they want a fun narrative like an or a Barbenheimer event to kind of come along to revitalize things? Because it is kind of inordinate that or incongruous to have the biggest successes of the summer be two blockbusters that came out on the same day. You would think they would cannibalize each other, but it did it's a great story of collaboration, of cooperation, and reconciliation. Kind of like the Barbies and the Kens. The men and the women, instead of annihilating each other, they're reconciling. They're working together and realizing their strengths, complementing each other, instead of doing what the most cynical results of patriarchy will do, and that's work to promote men at the expense of women. And it just doesn't have to be that way, because we're humans and we have the ability to recognize the inherent dignity of others. And that kind of starts as this movie effectively recognizes by identifying the dignity within ourselves.
Yeah, I had to explain what the patriarchy was before the
Oh,
movie
what a
started.
conversation. Yeah.
Well, well, because I was like, have you? Well, 'cause that was one thing I had heard. It was like, oh, the patriarchy, and they were like, because I'm in mom groups, and people were like, oh, if you do take your younger kids, there's like some keywords you might want to explain. And so I was like,
Good
do
idea.
you? I was like, do you know what the patriarchy is? And she was like, I've heard the word. I don't think I know what it means. So I explained it to her, and she was like, okay. And then afterwards, she was like, I don't think that's what they really wanted. I think that they like just wanted everyone to have fun and like have a job. And I was like, you're right. You know what? You're the future.
The kids are all right. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys are fine. You guys are fine.
It's such a multi-layered film. That's the beauty of this movie. It's
Yeah.
operating on numerous levels.
Well, and it's funny because they have like this kind of like deep message almost, but it's like it was so funny. Like the movie was just so funny. There's so many funny bits. Like him thinking the patriarchy was actually ran by horses.
Horses. Oh,
I know,
yes.
he was like, yeah, once I realized it wasn't ran by horses, I was kind of not about it anymore. And I was like, I love that. I love that for you.
He's a horse girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What would the Kin Mojo Dojo Casa House?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love the idea that these are impacting the real world, and as these ideas are being conceived in Barbie Land, it's corresponding to a product being introduced.
Oh my God, I want the Depression Barbie. Like that was me. Like what they called out the 2007 Pride and Prejudice, and I was like, yeah, or
yes.
the BBC one, yeah.
We watched that in high school because I had my AP Lit teacher was obsessed with all Jane Austen stuff, and we had read it, and she was like, "Now we have to watch it." And I felt like I was having like PTSD. I was like, "Oh gosh, I forgot this movie existed."
I guess comfort viewing. Is that the kind of movie that you would just put on to, or is it a singular film? I'm sure there have been several adaptations.
There are a couple adaptations, and that's just one of them. And it's a story that definitely, if you're in the feels and you just want to like just be emotional for a minute, like you'll turn that on, like especially if you got like relationship stuff going or whatever. And yeah, it's a good one.
Let it.
I say women have the movies where you just you're gonna cry a little bit, and that was hers, I guess.
I think this movie will be an effective version of that.
Yeah, I can see it already.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like fast forward over all the mom-daughter stuff, and then I'm just here for the laughs at this point. I was like, do I want to watch it again?
I've already cried out all my tears. We're here.
Yeah. I was like trying to find napkins. I was like, where are all the napkins? My makeup's ready.
Yeah, I always try to be prepared going into movies. Grab some napkins. No matter what I purchased at the concession stand. So maybe to lay out a bit of context with the premise of the film, we talked about existential crises, and essentially, Margot Robbie's, they're living in this communal society that's kind of like they're almost a hive mind in a way. They don't question anything. Everything's very strange. Nothing's real. It's a toy world. It's like very abstract and kind of movie logic that allows you to accept that these are sort of living, breathing corporeal dolls portrayed by live action actresses and actors as the Kens, that are able to kind of live this idyllic lifestyle, even though this world that they're inhabiting is, would leave a lot to be desired if any one of us tried to go there. None of the food's real, the water isn't real. That would be really annoying. So like, as far as fictional universes go, this isn't one I would necessarily want to visit. But I guess it works for them because they're programmed not to think about it.
Well, they're programmed to be pretend.
To be played with.
You play pretend. Barbie doesn't drink water.
She doesn't go down the stairs. She just floats.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful
addition. Swim in the pool. Yeah. I'm like, they don't swim in the pool. What's funny, because my daughter has a Barbie dream house. She doesn't play Barbies with it. She plays it with the LOL dolls, but it has the slide that goes down to the pool.
Yeah.
Like, and there's no stairs. It's just levels. They just go right to the ground.
there's real whip topping, and like the toaster does function like a real toaster. She doesn't actually eat the waffle that comes out of it, but it, there is whipped cream. I don't know. Is that something from an actual Barbie set, like a real fake, or I know there are kids play sets that actually have like electrical components,
Yeah,
right?
like Easy Bake, stuff like that. I don't know if Easy Bake and Barbie ever did a tie-in, but I'm sure
I don't
like in the
think
90s,
so.
I was
Yeah.
something similar could have happened. But
Well, they might have had
yeah.
something where you like pushed it down and then you like push a button and the thing pops
Oh
out.
yeah.
That I wouldn't be
Uh-huh.
surprised by something like that
Yeah.
because I know like we have so much Barbie stuff in my lifetime. And so it was literally like they had the things that you could like flip the table and now it's a different kind of table.
Oh
And you
yeah.
could like the light turns on in the oven and things like that. So I imagine maybe it's like a callback to something like that. But there's literally so much stuff
So
in the
many.
last however so many years. Like my Nana has the original swimsuit Barbie. Like the
Amazing.
OG, she still has it. It's not in the box, but I was like, keep that.
Yeah.
Keep it forever.
I have the Malibu swimsuit one. It's not an original, but it was a reissue and I still have it in its box. It's yeah.
Monolith Barbie. That's the one, right? From the closer.
That's
The OG.
the OG original.
Exactly.
Because my Nana was born in the 50s, so she has it. She has that Barbie still.
So I am referring to, it opens with that 2001 A Space Odyssey sequence.
Strauss.
The trailer.
Yeah.
That's an effective. I think that there is a bit cut from that scene. I noticed like there's a moment where you see, Barbie, the statue from the legs down, and it is like a plastic statue. But then when it cuts to the wide of her full body, it's Margot Robbie. So it seems like they did build like a giant plastic Barbie doll.
That's what I'm hearing. There were a lot of practical effects that I didn't realize were practical effects until after I saw the film, and there were like these little behind the scenes featurettes. It completely blew my mind. Like just the set design of Barbie Land in general, it's just beautiful to look at, and so much of it is like physical practical effects, the statue as well. And then once we get onto the transportation scenes, that pan that they do, that was all practical. I don't know how exactly they did it, but I was losing my mind at that. It was some genuinely cool magic.
It was like a remote control car.
Okay,
so they actually they built it like, based on the old cars, because they wanted it to be like 50s-esque. But they said that they literally like built the whole car from scratch, had to build the body, and then it was remote control so that when she's in it, she doesn't actually have to drive. They're like, someone was driving it for her so she can, not pay attention and be turning around and saying hi to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic 50s era C1 Corvette, but not really, because it has 2 rows of seats. And I guess it probably just didn't even have necessarily any original Chevy Corvette parts.
They built it all completely. I read about it earlier.
Yeah. Funny. Give me one of those. Just I can pretend I have a car that's vintage, and but no, it was actually custom built. That would be, I don't know, it'd still be cool. As long as it can drive fast, I guess that'd be my main concern. Throw a V8 in there. The references to other Stanley Kubrick works. There's a Shining reference, which was kind of funny. So I don't know, maybe that's Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach flexing their cinephile sensibilities.
Yeah, there was a lot randomly, and I loved. I saw this first in the trailer, and it was cool to see it expanded upon. Just Wizard of Oz references here and there, and how this is really kind of a Wizard of Oz story in a way. She starts out in this like pink gingham gown that's very Dorothy Gale, and then you see the cinema is playing Wizard of Oz, and then obviously she goes to the real world. It's like this big transformation. Just a lot of different things here and there related to Wizard of Oz. I was tickled to see that.
Yeah, good.
Well, they even had a callback. Do you guys remember the movie Step Up that was on Disney?
Oh, I think so. The dance movie,
when we
right?
were like we were like teenagers. So America Ferrera was the main person in it, and at the end, when her husband's speaking in Spanish and he goes, "Si se puede," she says that in the movie. I cackled.
Right.
My husband was like, "What's so funny about that?" And I was like, "That was like the main tagline in the movie was Si se puede."
Oh my
And I was like,
gosh.
they did not just do a callback to that. I was so tickled. So
I
that was
just
probably my
realized
favorite
that.
one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
cool.
and like the NSYNC one. The
Oh,
NSYNC,
yes.
the one that when Alan's like, they're all Allens.
They're all Allens.
Yeah, they're all Allens. But I read
Even
that
that one.
Greta Gerwig, yeah. I read that Greta Gerwig actually like gifted him like some like photo disc of NSYNC
Oh,
before.
wow.
So then it was like a fun little tie back to the script.
Cute. Very cute.
They're all Allens.
Hmm.
Crazy. Yeah, what else? Got okay, so Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach are a married couple. I just found
Oh, I
found
didn't
that.
know
Oh, I
that.
didn't know that.
That's so random. Wow.
We all learned something new today.
Yeah.
Baumbach was previously married to Jennifer Jason Leigh. Looks not to,
Oh.
dox
Oh.
all the dirt here, but it's just yeah, obviously these it takes a certain level of creativity and genius, shall we say, to really stand out in the pop culture landscape when we see other similar projects really just collapse. I think Barbie could have been perhaps a catastrophic level failure if in the wrong hands, because I'm trying
For
to
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
like there are other examples recently even. Well, I mean, The Flash, look at
Mhm.
how that just it was trying to
Yeah.
capitalize on so many famous references and just this event piece of characters coming together a la the Avengers, but just nobody having any, nobody could possibly be bothered.
Well, that and like all the controversy surrounding
Yeah.
Ezra Miller also like turned people off. They're like, I don't
For
want to see it.
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
I was honestly surprised that they were still going with it. And I was like, I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm like,
that's
especially,
ballsy.
yeah, because everything was shut down for a while. I'm like, well, you have time to reshoot, recast, possibly. I mean, it might be too expensive at this point, but
I mean,
they had
probably.
time to.
They could
Yeah.
use the guy from the TV show. You already know he could be the
Right?
Flash.
Right? Oh
You
my
just
gosh.
recast him like they're doing with The Witcher, much to
Yeah.
my sadness.
Oh.
well, and it's not just that. They're trying to oh god, it's sort of well, Elemental from Pixar, there's an original idea, but also just so reminiscent of kind of the formula that you've seen, not just from Pixar, but a lot of Pixar imitators, the anthropomorphic version of some of X,
Yeah, what if we gave X feelings?
Emotions, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if emotions
It was
had
very
emotions?
like, yeah, I always say it kind of like the most it reminds me of is Inside Out, which I'm like, I know that they're actually like, they are actual emotions within someone's head. And these are like elements that are not in someone's head. But I'm like, I really liked Elemental, but I was like, they're like, clearly this works. We'll just keep doing this. What if this other thing had feelings? And I'm like, what's next? What gets feelings
Yeah.
next?
Yeah, well, Barbie's just so huge. There's a lot wrapped up in that name and that brand. A lot of concern about studios and Mattel taking all the wrong lessons from the success of this film and just now pumping out just a string of cynical cash grab brand tie-ins that are meant to resemble something like an adaptation of the Barbie brand, but if not handled correctly, or if overly derivative even of this particular attempt at brand synergy, where it is sort of a satire and it is poking fun at the product. If you just keep doing this sort of wink wink self-aware parody, that's going to get stale pretty quickly. So like you really just have to always be iterating with these things, but it's just you can see kind of the writing on the wall. There'll be so many just cheap imitations of Barbie
It's
probably.
already begun. There's a
Yeah.
Polly Pocket in the works by Lena Dunham.
saw that.
I'm like, I don't know. And I was a girl that loved Polly Pockets, all the different versions of them, the little ones and the plastic ones. Like, yeah, but still, I'm like, the thing is with that character, it's not gonna I don't see her as like having the same kind of cultural like
Oh,
impact that Barbie does, because you say Barbie and you think a million things. You think of just like, I mean, all the careers she's had, all the moms that have not let their kids have Barbies, but all the moms that do let their kids and then pass them down. Like it's such a thing that's just been talked about in society for, I mean, yeah, since the 50s, quite honestly. So it's like I'm curious what direction they're going to take that in, and I'm just kind of dreading that there's going to be this sort of resurgence, and I hope it's done with a lot of heart, because that's when it really does land. And I love an affectionate parody, but that's the whole thing of it. It needs to be affectionate at the end of the day and not just like like it's a thing that we're gonna wave this thing that in your face, and it's just, yeah, and what do you have to say about it? Like, it's just, what are your thoughts on the world? Like, I don't know, like, so that's why I really like this film. It offers some really unique perspectives and discussions that don't often get talked about, and surrounding this like cultural touch point that we all recognize, and so it's just seeing it in a new light that is really refreshing.
so much. Yeah. So much heart really contained in it. And I guess a recent example of a movie I really enjoyed. I mean, audiences haven't seemed to really, care one way or the other in terms of box office, but the most recent Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Destiny, it has yet to even surpass, I think, all of the original three films from the 80s, which
Oh
is
wow.
terrible, for a movie released in 2023. Um, so like a big disappointment for a movie that I think has been received generally positively among fans. But yeah, the broader audience doesn't seem to care that much. Mission Impossible, most recently, has had disappointing box office results. I enjoyed that. It was as good as a Mission Impossible film, ought to be. And even some of these streaming shows lately have been kind of coming under criticism. Marvel's Secret Wars with Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn just been getting excoriated. It's been raked over the coals lately with some of these just really kind of half-baked offerings that we've seen on streaming services. Um,
When I wonder if it's like burnout. Because like I know like my
Yeah.
husband, he doesn't like I've watched like She-Hulk and I watched Miss Marvel. And honestly, I think that the Marvel, I can't remember what it's called, but the one with all the Marvels,
Yeah.
that movie's coming out soon. Well, I guess in the future. I don't know when, but I was like, oh, we saw the preview for it, and I was like, oh, that looks cute. And like he's so burnt out on superhero movies. He was
How I
like
feel.
after
Yeah.
Endgame, yeah, he's like after Endgame, it's just like he's like, I don't, he was like, how do you top that? He was like, the thing is that when Endgame happened, that was like the first time it happened. And it was like, oh wow, this was so crazy. And he was like, but it just feels like they're just trying to introduce all these new people to do another Endgame. He's like, you have to do something different. And I think that's a lot of what's happening right now is that like you're seeing a lot of sequels for like nostalgia, cash grabs, kind of. You're seeing a lot of remakes for the same reason. Cause like, of course, like I want to see movies that I remember as a kid, but I don't want them to like cheapen it just because they want to make some more money off of me. Like,
True.
and like make it good. Make it good so that it's like, oh yes, this stands out against the original I saw when I was 6.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I guess that's what's happening. Cause like Indiana Jones, like I was never a big fan of Indiana Jones. I've watched them, but I was like, I'll watch that if it comes on streaming, but I'm not going to go pay to see that. Mission Impossible, I could care less. I'd watch it if it was on Netflix, but I'm like not going to go pay to see it. And I'm like, I'm probably not the demographic for Mission Impossible. That's probably the problem. But yeah, it's just like a lot of the movies, like when we saw Barbie, and it was so funny. My husband was like, I bet you $5, not one preview is original content. He's like,
Yeah.
not one of these previews is going to be an original movie, and none of them were. It was like
Nope.
Wonka,
Yeah.
it was Marvel,
Haunted Mansion. Yeah.
yeah, Haunted Mansion.
Mhm.
They were all things that have been done, that we've seen the story 100 times, and I'm like, I guess I owe you $5. Yeah, like
Major crickets. Yeah, major crickets for
yeah.
and Mission Impossible and Indiana Jones, they should have both been easy billion-dollar grossers worldwide. That was the expectation, of course, and
Mhm.
the budgets reflect that for these films. Haunted Mansion had a huge budget as far
Yeah.
as
Very promising as well. Everybody was really
It looks, yeah, it looks
yeah.
amusing, but I'm like, do I want to go see? I was like, I'll probably take my kids to see it. I think they'd
Mhm.
enjoy it. They haven't seen the original. They haven't seen the Eddie Murphy one. That's
I
the
love
one I
that
grew up
one.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
the
I
one I
loved
grew
the
up with.
ride. I loved the lore of it. And I was really excited to see them bring in aspects of the lore with like Madame Leota and like Constance Hatchaway, the bride, like, just bringing that aspect into the story of the ride and whatnot. But I'm hearing a lot of mixed things about it. So I'm like, don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess my daughter has seen the Muppet one, the Muppet
Oh, the
Haunted
Muppet one is
Mansion.
great. I love
Yeah,
the
she's
Muppet
seen
one.
that one. We've watched that one, and well, we rode the ride, so she rode it. We went
Yeah,
the last time
yeah.
we went, she was 6, and so I was like, yeah, this is based on the thing that we watched. So I'm like, you have to watch it. So I'm like, it's maybe we'll see how it goes.
I think there'll be a right side. I mean, we're not going to stop getting movies. I do root for theaters because I do enjoy the theatrical experience. But there'll be a right sizing where you're just not seeing the huge inflated budget so much, and we probably don't need it because you can do effective visual effects on a lower budget nowadays. We have the tools, but it's just kind of the glut that is part of the status quo of the major blockbuster cinema. And we don't need to set out to make a film expecting that's going to make an easy $1 billion because that's just not guaranteed anymore. I'm sure Warner Brothers had no idea Barbie was going to make billions of dollars at the box office. I mean, thank God, now to cover the bomb that was The Flash, and I think a few other failures that they've experienced recently. I mean, Oppenheimer, that's Universal. They had Ruby Gillman, teenage Kraken, doing absolutely nothing.
Oof,
That
hot
cost
off the heels of Little Mermaid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Scarlett watched that and she said it was kind of funny. And I was like, okay,
Okay,
I haven't seen it. But she's like, it's kind of funny. And I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. So, like I saw a great movie, Talk to Me. It was fantastic. And that's a new film from A24, made $10
Oh
million over the
yeah.
weekend.
Mhm.
Horror movie cost like $4 million, Australian
Yeah.
production.
And A24 is one of the few studios out there that has been able to negotiate with writers and actors. So I appreciate, I mean, if a relatively smaller studio can do it, surely these big budget studios can also potentially in the future. And I don't know yeah. So I really, I hope we can see more films like, like Barbie, but also like Moonlight as well, like films that are really beautifully artistic, but don't have this like crazy budget, but still can like beyond recoup and do fantastically well. Like I'm always rooting for artistic films like that.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of gawk at these massive companies, and it's just unfortunate that what happens to them, has trickle down effect to the kinds of people who are striking right now and trying to earn a living, and they're struggling, and that's just no fun to see. When these companies are spending billions of dollars, and people are just kind of shrugging as in response. I guess the best remedy is for people to go out and make their own stuff and use their creative power to the best of their abilities in whatever venue they can. Unfortunately, just the best opportunities people get in order to do that is through the system, these major studios, and right now the studios are DOA in terms of the what was the word I'm looking for, the negotiating that's going on. So yeah, I think we'll start to wrap up on Barbie, but yeah, kind of crazy that this film, we're looking at it's already over 800 million worldwide, after only a couple of weekends. So the movies are back. It's just depends on which one. Yeah. What else should we cover here before we sign off?
I really want Greta Gerwig to do more musicals, please. Like anytime there was a musical sequence in this film, I was like, she has such a great eye and ear for how these kind of sequences work. Like the Dance the Night, the Dua Lipa scene, everybody was just on it. It was beautiful, fantastic energy. And obviously the Ken song was just brilliant. And you know, just like all the homages that she does to like Grease and other like musical films, that it just makes me want to see more of that, and like more musicals that are big budget films or small budget films, just like more blockbustery musicals, please. I have a great time seeing them.
Same. I'm a big musical girl. And honestly, so the Ken like fight scene and the whole dancing, my husband said it was his favorite part. Because he was like, especially like as a guy, because it does talk about like how guys and like are supposed to be, and how in this world they're like just accessories. And he was like, yeah, he was like, it's kind of funny. He was like, you don't really think about it, but he's like, we're always kind of like, we're kind of taught to like compete against each other as men. And he was like, so it was just nice to just like, they're just fighting it out, and then they get along at the end, and they're like, yeah, I just want to have a tickle fight, and I want to like do this and compliment my friends, and like it's not all about competing for things. We can just have emotions and be people too.
Yeah.
And so he was like that was my favorite part. He's like I want to watch it again just for that specifically.
Yeah, I'm glad he could resonate with that. And it's just a cool thing that a lot of people can feel some sort of representation from this film, not just from the divide between the Barbies and Kens, but just seeing even within that and outside of that, like there's a character in this film for everyone in some way, or a moment in this film for everyone to reflect on and be like, oh, I felt like that before, or that really hit me in a way that I didn't expect to. Or so that's something I really appreciate about this film.
Yeah. Well, the Barbie, when she's dancing and she's like, you guys ever think about dying? I was like,
Me?
I feel seen.
Yes.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, let's keep dancing. I was like, yes. In which I'd seen it on the previews, but I was like, I resonate.
Very salient than the moment when they arrive on the beach in the crazy costumes and rollerblades, and Ken's feeling great, he's feeling empowered, and Barbie's like, oh, I feel mildly
undertones of violence.
Yeah,
I'm like,
she's
oh
like,
yeah,
I don't feel good.
Welcome.
They get it. She was like, I need some feminine energy, and she goes over to the guys, and they're like saying stuff, and she's like, I don't have a vagina, and he doesn't have a penis. My daughter got that part, and that was very funny.
There were so many little like quips here, like the girl calling Barbie a fascist. Like our entire theater like erupted at that. Like there's just so many little one-liners that just they just hit in such a way. Or the Supreme Court, like that little moment. Yeah.
Well, like Margot Robbie, when she's Barbie and she's like, I'm just so ugly, and everyone thinks I'm ugly and I'm gross, and then Helen Mirren's like, yes, a note to the directors. This doesn't really come across when Margot Robbie's the actress. And it's like, yeah, she's crying and she looks beautiful.
She's a
and you're
10
like,
of 10, exactly.
You look gross. And I do. So when she was like falling apart and she like falls over and then she just lays flat, she was so rigid like a Barbie lays when you just throw it on the ground.
Yeah.
And I was like, perfect. I was like, honestly, everyone, 10 out of 10. I was like, Helen Mirren's narrator, Margot Robbie is Barbie, which I will say when we were talking about like, because it's Mattel and Mattel wants to protect its Barbie image, apparently like Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie like had to go to bat with like so many scenes, because Mattel would be like, ooh, we don't think we're gonna love this, and so like, or they like read the script and they wanted to scratch stuff, and so like Margot Robbie apparently like went to them and met with them and was like, this is what it's gonna be, this is the scene, like keep it in here please, like and it's like I think Sasha, the daughter, that was her name, when she's like, oh yeah, you're a fascist and you're this and blah, 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 blah. And apparently they were like, they kind of like put that in there because they were like, it's kind of like saying it before anyone else does. Like, oh, Barbie's not a good role model because she's this and anti-feminist. And it's like, you know what? We'll just go ahead and put it in there.
Yeah.
So no one else can come in and say it.
Yeah, I'm hearing there was a lot of cut moments. Like there was a moment of Midge going into labor that we didn't get to see. Apparently the bleep at the end was not bleeped, and that's why they added the little Mattel logo, because Mattel obviously. So I'm very curious if we'll get like a director's cut or special bonus features when this comes to video, to streaming on demand or whatnot, because I'm very curious to see what else could have been, what were the other things that Mattel were like, maybe no to, but yeah.
Yeah, with the way that they're kind of raking in the cash, maybe they'd be open to taking a few more lumps just to drive the sales.
People would like to
edition
see
DVDs.
it.
Yeah, like it was like a refreshing take. It was like, oh, it's funny, it can make fun of itself, but also be poignant and like be emotional at the same time. And honestly, like we've watched other Barbie things. Obviously, we grew up with all the Barbie movies. But there's also on Netflix, you have Barbie's Dream House, and then you have
I love Life in the Dream House. Yes, great
so
show.
my son, who is 4, loves that show. He will watch the whole it's so funny. And like it's so funny because they like have jokes in there that are like kind of for adults, and they, of course, the kids don't realize it.
And the Ken there is also so hilarious and so the perfect kind of Kenergy, like, and so many great characters. Raquel is like my favorite of the Barbie characters. Yeah,
she's
so
like the
good.
diva Barbie. She just wants to be Barbie.
Yeah.
And then they also have it's like Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures, where Barbie's like a teenager. That's also Netflix. But it's just they have so many like little tongue-in-cheek things. And I'm like, I know that like Mattel looks over all this stuff, and I'm glad that they will let people like do that with the IP, because like you don't have to always take yourself so seriously. Like, like you can have fun with it. Like, pick on Barbie, it's fun. Love Barbie, it's fun.
I mean, and we've kept it pretty light here. I like, Laura, that you mentioned, there are families who forbade their kids from playing with Barbies, and it's understandable. It's so the expectations that are very kind of unrealistic and harmful in many ways, that these kinds of images might provoke. But this animation podcast, we realize when you're creating an artistic rendition of a character, you want it to be appealing. You want it to be something that people want to engage with and stands out amongst heavy competition. So that's why you have these idealized proportions on characters that are in cartoons and in figurine form. The baby dolls, of course, evolving into the adult proportioned Barbie dolls. That was a big step.
Like the Skipper, when they were doing the rejected dolls and they had the growing up Skipper, I was like,
oh my gosh,
that unlocked something I had forgot existed.
Yeah.
And I remember the TV Barbie too. And I was like,
that was fairly recent, like in the 2000s. I remember the commercials for it.
Yeah, because I was like, that's a weird choice, but okay. Well, yeah, because you could like record things with it and it would play it back. Because I had one that you could like you could talk to it and it would play back your voice, which I thought was really cool. You could like sing with it. And so I was like,
cute.
Yeah, I was like, I forgot about all these rejected Barbies that they had.
The other one they had that they didn't really focus on, the Teen Talk Barbie, which got a lot of backlash at the time because she was saying like, math is hard, let's go shopping. So, and obviously not the image that they want to really be sharing for the little girls and little kids growing up. So I was curious why they didn't have her do anything, but it was cool to see her there. I was like, I know you.
Maybe they cut it. Maybe she did.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because I think. Well, and I like it's so funny because I have heard like I had friends who they were like, oh, Barbies are controversial, but it's so funny now. So there's LOL dolls, which have like really big heads.
All of those.
They're so though Barbie's not controversial anymore because there's so many options and they have realistic shaped Barbies and all kinds of Barbies now. And so Barbie is not controversial, at least like in the spheres that I see it in. It's LOL dolls. People like were throwing them away at one point because they were like, they're like dressed inappropriately, and I'm like,
and they're like babies, right? They're like really
well,
younger.
Some of them are. Yeah. Well, they have so because my daughter loves them, so they have like the adult ones. They're like the big sisters, and then they have like smaller ones, and they have like like toddler size and like babies. They
Yeah.
have boys, but the boys were anatomically correct, so they had penises,
Oh
which
boy.
they were like, they weren't a blob, they weren't a kin blob. They like had it, but it wasn't like anything crazy. But yeah, there was a lot of controversy. So that's like, I don't hear as much anymore about Barbie, but when I was a kid, people were like, oh, they're not realistic. They don't set realistic standards. It's just like, you teaches girls to be shaped like a blonde bimbo, basically.
Yeah. And
I'm like,
Bratz was the other one that was huge.
yes.
Like
when you were saying Polly Pocket earlier, I was like, I wonder if there'll be a Bratz movie.
yeah, I mean they did do one, but I could see them doing and it's funny because the Sasha and her friend group, they're all named after the Bratz. Like it's Sasha,
Yeah.
Yasmin, Chloe, Jade. That blew my mind when I figured that out. I was like,
I didn't
oh
know
my
the other girls'
gosh.
names. So
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
their names. That's so funny. No, I didn't know that. I like that. I like that's a little tie-in too.
Right,
They
because
did
they
so
hate
many
Barbie.
things.
So I'm like, well, I
Yeah,
guess
they're
that
like,
makes sense. Yeah.
well, because like brats were like the cool,
Yeah.
stylish versions,
The
and
girls
they had
with
the really
passion for
big mouths.
passion. Hmm.
Yeah, they had the really big mouths and like the dramatic makeup, where Barbie is like the girl next door.
Yeah,
I
I
can
had
do
them
everything.
both, and it was
I did too.
interesting. Yeah, it's they had different proportions, so you can share outfits or anything, but it was really interesting how both of them were marketed at the time. Like Barbie was very much like the safe, like the parents could like always rely on Barbie, like at least at that point, the way it was being marketed, compared to Bratz, which were seen as the more subversive, the more like, oh, we might have to ban these from the household type of doll comparatively to Barbie. But then there were a few Barbies as well, and then Barbie went on to My Scene. There was that whole thing as well. So
Yeah.
there's just been so many eras of dolls, especially eras of Barbie being compared to other dolls. And then it's very interesting how things have ended up now, where it's very it's there's a Barbie for everyone. It's very the image is a lot different now, I think, even before this movie came out, but especially bolstered by this movie, as well as like it's like not the same kind of empowerment as it was when it was first released, but it feels a little bit more genuine, I would say. It's like they have a Barbie with Down syndrome, like they have lots of different representative Barbies
Oh
who
yeah, they had the one in the wheelchair in the
yeah.
movie.
So it's very like, yeah, and I compare it a lot to like it kind of feels in my mind the way that American Girl was growing up. And that's another one that I think I'm like, oh, they could do a big American Girl movie with like all of the girls.
I
Now my
want to say
mind is
they've
like
talked
racing.
about it. I
Yeah.
want to say they've talked about it. I don't know if it got scrapped, but I think like
Mhm.
Barbie was like, at least the way I always saw it was like, she was like the more wholesome one, that it's like,
Mhm.
you can be Barbie, because Barbie can be
Right.
anything.
Because
So
she
it's
can
like
be,
you can
yeah.
be, yeah, you can be an astronaut. Like, and that's kind of what the movie was saying. Like, for a long time, dolls were just like, you can act like being a mom. And so
Yeah.
that's why she made
Mhm.
Barbie. So it's like, oh, you can be more than a mom.
Be a
And
career
that's what I'm
woman.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I thought like when Bratz came out, that was like because I feel like Barbies, like after a certain age, they're like, Barbies aren't cool anymore. That's for little kids. It
Right.
was Bratz for like the cool preteen teen Barbie. You can
You
play
kind of
with them because they have
graduated.
makeup and
Mhm.
cool heels, and they're edgy, and they're like in high school. And so I'm like, because I want to say I had them in like middle school, and I was like, these are so cool.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I still had Barbies, but I didn't play with them. I didn't play with them as much. And so, and honestly, my daughter, she's about to be in fifth grade, and
Oh
she doesn't play
wow.
with Barbies. She plays with LOL dolls, if she plays with them at all. And so I'm like, yeah, I guess I can see that. Like, I don't remember at what age they fell out of fashion, but it's like you hit an age where you're like, I don't play with dolls. I'm a grown up now.
Also,
Everyone's on the phones.
yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
social power in being a bit irreverent or
Mhm.
rebellious. There's just that's how I guess trends go. You People try to find ways of standing out or being their more authentic selves when they feel marginalized by kind of the expectations of the world around them. And if we could just kind of do away with a lot of these expectations, I think people would generally be a lot healthier. But as humans, it's hard. Well, especially like in today's media culture, the information and communication technologies that drive our media and everything's so instantaneous. It's almost like we're seeing the greatest explosion of comparison, and we've talked about this, I guess, on previous podcast episodes. But the expectation and image problems that affect people, I think, are just so particularly inflamed as a result of a lot of modern technology. But and we saw this, of course, I guess the invention of Barbie itself, coming in the age of television and 20th century innovation, magazines and pop culture. It's sort of a natural outflow of that. But also kind of cool that we have this this luxury of characters that we can kind of hold as avatar, really, of kind of an ideal that we might aspire toward. So it's there are positives and negatives, and we just gotta try to embrace the things that are healthy about it, and reject the things that are toxic. The peak criticism of the depiction of patriarchy in Barbie and how that could be harmful towards men who are watching, or males. I mean, as a guy, like, I don't feel particularly threatened because of the privilege of historical patriarchy. Like, I can take the jabs. I didn't feel any kind of hostility personally. But of course, you're going to have your Ben Shapiros who are super offended.
Which is funny. I saw a
Or trigger.
picture of him like at the movie theater,
Oh,
and
he was
his
like
in
dressed
front
up
of the
and
thing.
everything. Yeah.
And they were like, well, he was in all black, and they were like, you're literally cosplaying as Ken. You cosplayed as Ken and went and saw the movie because he was wearing black pants and a black shirt tucked in, and they're like, you cosplay as Ken. That's weird.
I'm guessing he was hard on it. I honestly don't know. Did he enjoy it for what it was?
He
hated it.
he didn't like it. He hated it. Yeah. I honestly, he probably didn't even watch it. He probably walked in and was like, ugh, and then walked back out.
On his phone. He was scrolling through X.
Yeah, and probably got distracted. And yeah, the thing about this movie that people are talking about online is that some actually think it's very kind of a surface level view of feminism and whatnot. But I'm like, in the society that we live in, I think a lot of people just need feminism 101 right now, just to get a dip the toes in before really like hard launching into some things, just to toy around with those ideas in a familiar setting with a character we all know and love to some degree, or at least are all familiar with to some degree.
Well, and I think if it's too in your face, and it's too like, if it's too much, people are going to automatically turn off. So I think that it was done in a way, because I live in the South, so I saw people who are like, oh, it's too woke, I'm not going to go see it, my kids aren't allowed to see it. And I'm like, you haven't even given it a chance. Like, if you're not sure if you want your daughters to watch it, like, go watch it first, see how you feel, and if you feel like that represents your worldview, then like, go ahead. But I'm like, because I see it all the time, and it's like, I think as long as it's not like overt, I guess, I don't know, like, when it's too much, people like, they immediately turn off and they don't get the message, and it kind of like, it does a disservice, because it's like, especially as a woman, like, you want to be equal, right? Like, I get not like being a bit more conservative in your views, but like, you are a woman, your kids are women, like,
yeah, this
don't
movie
you
is
want
for
equality?
everyone,
well, it's like, yeah. It like harkens back to the men too. Don't you want your sons to be equal? Like, and like, you don't want them to like treat women badly because they think they're better than them, or you don't want like your daughters not to earn as much because they're a woman. So I'm like,
if you want to grow as a person, you have to question your programming a little bit. Like, it's Margot Robbie in this film. And I guess there are people who think it's better to just totally drink the Kool-Aid, embrace the program. There is the literal blue pill, red pill.
Oh yeah, the Birkenstock.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I want the high heel. I want the high heel. I was like, you know what? I can relate. I think Birkenstocks are ugly.
Yeah, the Morpheus in this case just doesn't let Neo.
Yeah, she's like,
the
you don't have an
illusion
option.
of choice.
Yeah, she's like, you really don't have an option. You have to want to know. And she's like,
I think that's true. It's like once we all live in this society, we know what the criticisms are. So if we're just continuing to go about our normal lives without acknowledging it, we're just lying to ourselves. So we have to take the pill in a sense, and at least figure out what's going on. You don't have to become a bra burning feminist or anything. You just try to know at least the perspective and where people are coming from. Where did this all manifest originally? And you can use kind of the teachings, the methods, the narratives to kind of enrich yourself and build your own persona, in a much more well-rounded, essentially more equipped fashion, so that you can engage with society and not be so just adrift, or I guess prone to the tides and the shifts in culture. And that's why so many people are just, they're so reactionary and fearful when they hear of messages that are kind of contradictory to their programming. The instant sort of reaction, the tendency to react rather than simply respond, or to simply kind of listen. That all just comes from this heightened sense of fear and sensitivity, to things that really aren't threatening. It's just that sort of a self-imposed ignorance, and laziness maybe allows for these things to then become sticking points, and then they can become inflamed. But no, they shouldn't be areas of hostility. They should just be areas of curiosity, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people thought, like, it being Barbie, it being pink, it being about women, it would be like super feminist. And so I guess, like, I haven't looked at like reviews to see if people complain about like it not being feminist enough, being too feminist. But honestly, I don't even know that the theme is necessarily like feminism. I think it's more just like equality.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's everybody.
How I view feminism, quite honestly. It's like everybody
it's just
wants to
equality.
be, yeah.
Well, yeah, if you go to the opposite extreme of like, oh, well, now, men have had their fun, we should now subjugate men.
We have to overthrow the government.
Yeah, and that'll be fair now if we live in a world that's, where men are dominated and subservient, like that's not justice. We need to, equality should be the aim, so, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I guess I'm just a person, so who knows if the prevailing sentiment one day is that that women should rule, and there is a second class of subservient men or whatever. I guess that's that would be the prevailing dystopia that we'd find ourselves in. But it's really not that far removed from a lot of the just very unequal and tyrannical structures that have existed throughout human history. But that's politics. I mean, it's, of course, it's a cluster trying to get people, people dealing with egos and pursuit of power and things like that. As much as like we need to recognize our programming and question things, there's a degree to which it is healthy to just kind of focus on our lives and not worry about things and stew and brood, because it's unhealthy to do so. Rather, the programming that we do run, should be optimized, I guess, in a way to make it so that we are equipped for anything that comes our way. So all this lecturing, I hate myself rambling here, but it's just stuff that I think about personally, because I struggle with a lot of feelings of existential dread and crises and stuff, and there are a lot of strategies that I've come across that are very helpful in dealing with that, and a lot of it sort of can resemble naivete in a way, but really it's just knowing when it's the right time and place to really address certain problems, and frankly, unless there's something immediately in front of you, it's best not to obsess about things and overthink.
I think all the existential dread movies, like being this summer, like I think it's just like a collective like theme of how everyone feels.
I mean, with the past several years we've had, it's just kind of, we've just been sitting in this sort of existential limbo of like, well, all this horrible stuff has happened and we're kind of all numb to it at this point. And I think this film showed it in a very fun but real way of like, when she wakes up on the second day and it's like P, panic, I'm scared, and nauseous, K, death. I'm like, yeah, that rings for me.
Well, and especially like at least most of the younger generations, I know like they have a lot of anxiety. They're like, everything's really expensive. Like, how do we live? But you know what? Like, I'm gonna wear pink and I'm gonna go to the pool and not think about it.
Yeah,
They're like, we're
that's
here
all
for
we
a good
can
time,
do.
not a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it just comes from realizing that our capacity to handle problems does not actually come from falling into despair or highly activated emotions, but rather, if we can be more calm and at peace, sort of passive in our disposition, we're going to be able to at least process things more effectively. And not that we should be passive in the way we deal with things, but in our kind of openness to multiple avenues of execution. So let's see. We're gonna end this now, but no, thank you both for a fun chat about Barbie and the existential crises therein.
Woohoo.
As it yeah, it has an impact, and there's a reason why people have resonated so much with this film. It it kind there's a lot of subconscious issues tied up in the kind of in the themes and subject matter. Um, so that's what we are here for, on the Thodcast, conversations about animation. Just tell people who you are, I guess, and any additional thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll start with you, Laura.
Yeah, I'm Lara Akal. You can find me at Lara Akal on Instagram and TikTok. I mainly kind of post about my performance life. I do princess performing, and I post a lot about Disney and princesses. And so if you're into that, go for it.
Yeah, Bridget.
So I'm Bridget. You can find me on Instagram at Bridget. That's Bridge with a T, 5246. And I guess final thoughts. So my favorite line from the whole movie was, "We mothers stand still so our daughters can look back to see how far they have come." Of course, I boohooed, but it was just like, it's such a good like, empowerment movie about equality. Then it's also just like about the bond between like mother and daughter and how you want them to do more, be more, experience everything they can. And that's kind of what Ruth was doing when she made Barbie, because she was like, I want my daughter to experience all these things. And so that's why she made her for her and also all other little girls. So yeah, just good movie all around. 10 out of 10 recommend.
I love that.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome. All right. Well, yeah. So to I don't know, balance the life of being a Barbie girl living in a Barbie world, and also, address the the issues of the day and some of the ways in which we can experience life as an existential hellscape. Uh, it's certainly you know fantastic life in plastic. But for now, this has been the Thodcast, conversations about animation and talking about live action Barbie movie, but this is very much a cartoon in its style and
Very
sensibility.
animated in its own way.
Yeah,
It's a live action animation.
and you can find Thodcast at thodcast.com, at Thodcast on X and Instagram, I guess. I don't know, the whole Twitter can't go away.
Oh
It's
boy.
become a verb at this point. It's
I
become
literally have not updated it, and I don't know when I will update it. I still have
yeah.
the bird. I am hanging
They
on
have
to
to
it for
stop
dear
changing
life.
the names. They need to stop changing the names. No one's going to call Facebook Meta. No one's going to
Mm-mm.
call Twitter, whatever they're calling it. Just stop.
We're
No one's going
just
to do it.
Sears Tower, Willis Towering it at this point.
We still call these things podcasts, which is appropriate because it's a broadcast. It's like a radio broadcast, but it's just a MP3 file. So it's like a little packet of information on a computer. A packet, call that a podcast. It works. But yeah, used to refer to the old iPods, which I'm sure we
Right.
all probably had one at some point.
Oh yeah.
Way back in the day. Do they even make iPods anymore?
I don't know, the
The touch
shuffles maybe.
ones? Yeah, shuffle.
Yeah. I was say, do they
Mhm.
still make them, or are we just like all of our music's on our phones now?
Already obsolete, huh?
People
That's
are getting sick of
craziness.
smartphones, so I'm sure they'll make a comeback at some point. Yeah.
Mhm.
They have flip phones. I know some people who get them for their kids, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what a time! What a time to be
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah. So sorry for all the waffling earlier and about weird problems. And I hate, I've been around politics a lot and just cultural flashpoints, and I just I kind of enjoy it to a degree, but also, I know what it's like to have very strong feelings about things, so I don't really like provoking those in people either. So, I'm sorry if, this got a little heavy, but
I mean, if anything, I didn't talk about capitalism at all, and I love talking about capitalism. So
I feel that. I feel that.
talk about it a lot. So
I'm Philip Elke. You can find me at Philip Elke on Instagram and X. Streaming all over the place, podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, those kinds of things. All these great brands that bring so much enrichment and joy to our lives via the wonders of capitalism.
oh, well, all the Barbie stuff. There was a Barbie Xbox controller that I desperately wanted, but I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
The
it almost
merch
got me.
tie-ins.
It
Oh yeah,
almost
I'm
got
wearing a Barbie
me.
shirt right now that I got
I
from
know.
Forever 21. So yeah, there's so many tie-ins.
Keep an eye out for some neat merch. I don't know. Yeah, we'll be back with more Thoughtcasts at some point. But in the meantime, I think we'll call this good. You all have a magical day, a wonderful week. Warm hugs.